WUSF.org. Support for WUSF and its hurricane coverage comes from EnduraFlood, made to protect Florida homes from drywall damage caused by flooding from hurricanes. Components are designed to be waterproof, and the EnduraFlood wall system can be opened and removed to dry out. Details are at EnduraFlood.com.
Charter schools that serve students in low-performing areas want to move into empty space inside Florida public schools. These so-called schools of hope created an uproar among public school supporters who don't want private schools taking over underused public school space. Now it's been revealed charter schools in Sarasota are themselves running under capacity. So, how are educators dealing with fewer students? I'm Matthew Petty, and coming up on Florida Matters Live and Local, we'll talk about it. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 50 years old. You've seen the dizzying heights of the Tom Brady era, but it took a really long time for the Bucs to get there. Were you a fan from when they were better known as the Yucks? Bucs fans, we want to hear from all of you. Call 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562 and share your highs and lows from the last 5 decades of the Buccaneers. All this and your calls after these headlines.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Senate Republicans are again attempting to overcome Democratic opposition to a short-term spending measure that would reopen the government. They were unable to do so the last 13 times, and that's dragged out the shutdown to 35 days, tied now for the longest in U.S. history. Last time it went that long was during President Trump's first term. Hundreds of thousands of federal workers are furloughed or working without pay. Services are limited. The Federal Food Assistance Program, SNAP, ran out of money over the weekend. Even though the Trump administration said it was tapping into contingency funds, it says it can only pay out 50% this month of what people normally get. That stands to affect tens of millions of people, such as Phoenix resident Shalise Hooks, who is unemployed and has a 15-year-old son.
It's hard because he's in high school, and when he comes home, he's hungry. It's okay, Mom. I know it's not okay.
Hooks is among 42 million people who depend on federal food assistance. Voters across Virginia are heading to the polls. In central Virginia, where demographics and political
Keisha Spencer is a preschool center director in Chesterfield. She said federal cuts to programs inspired her to vote.
Cutting things like Head Start is terrible for our community. These are children that's going to be taking care of us once we're old.
68-year-old retired CPA James Walker says he's voted every year since he was 18. He said it was his duty, responsibility, and privilege to vote.
I'm worried about my country, and I'm more concerned about that. And so to that extent, I think a more conservative approach in this country is better at this time.
For NPR News, I'm Brad Kuttner in Richmond.
Former Vice President Dick Cheney has died. He was 84. NPR's Don Gagné looks back at Cheney's long tenure as a Washington power player.
Dick Cheney grew up in Nebraska, flunked out of Yale, but eventually headed back to school. By age 34, he was chief of staff to President Gerald Ford. He won a congressional seat in Wyoming and later was defense secretary to President George H.W. Bush. After a stint as CEO of the energy firm Halliburton, Cheney was named George W. Bush's running mate. He was an unusually influential vice president and an unwavering proponent of an aggressive U.S. military policy following the 9/11 attacks. That included going to war in Iraq to confront Iraq's alleged possession of weapons of mass destruction. No such weapons were ever found. Cheney, though, was unrepentant to the end. Don Gagné, NPR News.
It's NPR.
Support for NPR comes from ARM, committed to delivering innovative, advanced computing designed to enable worldwide companies to unleash the capabilities and experiences of AI. The future of AI is built on ARM. ARM.com. This is NPR.
You're listening to WUSF 89.7. I'm Craig Kopp. Okeechobee County Commissioner Terry Burrows is watching the state legislature closely as it considers changes to the property tax.
You do not have a large tax base, so what you have to do is you have to be very nimble when you're trying to do things for your county and provide the services that your constituents require.
Appearing on the Florida Roundup, House Speaker Daniel Perez recently questioned whether the most affected small counties might not be better consolidated, but Burrows thinks that would clash with local residents' pride as well as practicality.
Your needs in a rural county are much different than a large urban county. And so once you're shifted over into an urban county, you're just lost in the mix.
Legislative leadership has not responded to questions about whether it has talked more about consolidating counties. Some horror stories are so scary you got to look away. Not the cult classic Evil Dead. It spawned several sequels and a musical now showing in Tampa. It's a gory one that even has a splash zone. Carla Hartley is directing the Stageworks production. She says most people in the audience know what's coming.
There's nobody in the room that doesn't understand that these actors who are going to suddenly, spoiler alert, pull water guns full of blood out of a pocket and sort of shooting everybody and anybody, right? It's fun and it's ridiculous. And I kind of feel like it's exactly what we all kind of need right now.
It is set in an old abandoned cabin in the woods during spring break. What could possibly go wrong? Evil Dead, the musical, is playing at Stageworks in Tampa through November 16th. You can get details at WUSF.org. A Tampa-based property insurance company will pay a $250,000 fine to the state. Slide Insurance Company is accused of violating state laws and handling claims after Hurricanes Ian and Idalia. The State Office of Insurance Regulation website says Slide used adjusters who were not properly appointed to handle claims. I'm Craig Kopp, WUSF 89.7 News.
Listener support powers WUSF. Funding also comes from Sarasota Memorial Hospital, celebrating 100 years of caring for the community and laying the foundation for 100 more, leading the region in quality health care since 1925. Learn more at smh.com/100.
You are listening to WUSF 89.7 Tampa, broadcasting from the Doctors Lorraine Rubis and Neil Frankel studio.
This is Florida Matters live and local. I'm Matthew Petty. Some Florida charter schools, known as Schools of Hope, want to move into empty space inside public schools. Now, we've talked on Florida Matters live and local about how public schools in Sarasota and Manatee counties are scrambling to figure out how to respond to charter schools moving into their campuses. Supporters say moving charter schools into public schools is a great way to make use of unused resources. But detractors say charter school operators are getting something they should be paying for rent-free. Now, if you're a parent or an educator and you're affected by this issue, we'd love to hear from you. The number is 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562, I should say. You can also send us an email, FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Here's something else to consider as well. Charter schools in Sarasota County have the same amount of unused space as public schools. Charter schools are not running out of room. That's the finding from the non-profit independent newsroom Suncoast Searchlight. And to explain, here's Suncoast Searchlight reporter Derek Gillum. Derek, thanks for being here. Now, what did you discover about enrollment at Sarasota County public schools? And, I mean, can you kind of break it down by the classroom? Is it the same at each school? Does it vary from school to school?
Yeah, it really varies among the Sarasota County School District. You have many schools that are maybe some of them are even over capacity, but population trends and just the direction of where people are moving are not in the same neighborhoods as they always were. And some of those neighborhood schools have seen utilization or their capacity or their ability to fill the classrooms severely impacted.
Okay, so the popular schools are going to have more people wanting to send their kids there. The less popular schools, they're struggling to put kids in classrooms, so to speak.
Yeah, I would say the older neighborhoods for sure. Maybe not necessarily more popular, but Sarasota has unique demographics. I mean, Florida in general does, but in particular Sarasota, I think the only out of our population, I think it's only 14% of the population is school aged. Okay. I think the state average is around 19%. So there just isn't as many kids in Sarasota as in other Florida counties.
Okay, we can get into demographics in a bit, but let me first sort of see if I can understand what's happening with charter schools. And first of all, is there a difference between Schools of Hope and other charter schools? And if so, what is it?
Yeah, so Charter schools, I believe the first one, or at least one of the first ones to open in Sarasota, opened in 1997. They are schools that they provide a different path for students. They do have they have to be approved by a charter authorizer. In Sarasota, the Sarasota County School District is the charter authorizer. They have a review process where they review the curriculum and make sure that it matches what the standards in Sarasota are.
So there is some oversight there.
There is. I'm not sure how much, once they're approved, there is. We haven't fully dove into charter authorizers and kind of what exactly the local oversight looks like. But there is a process, and there is supposed to be oversight of charter schools, of traditional charter schools.
And then Schools of Hope. So this is a different kind of charter school?
Yeah. So the legislature approved the Schools of Hope legislation, I believe, in 2017. And that was originally specifically targeted at low-performing school districts where a charter operator would come in and assume operations of school district properties and try to see a turnaround. It wasn't until last year that they greatly expanded that law, and it no longer was just poor performing or people that were struggling school districts. They opened up any school district facility, no matter how large or how small, to Schools of Hope.
And I want to sort of understand, if I can, what a struggling school is. Like, what are the metrics? Is it like the test scores are bad? Is it other factors that mean the state can say this is a struggling school? Yeah,
my understanding it was school grades and other factors.
Okay.
That would designate someone as a school that would send up a flag saying, "Hey, Schools of Hope, come help here."
Right. But now it's kind of a moot point because the state has greatly expanded the criteria and said that pretty much any public school which has space is fair game.
Yes. And the multiple schools in Sarasota County, especially in some of the older neighborhoods, they do have some utilization. They have hundreds of classrooms that, on paper at least, could be available for a charter school operator to come in. And not only that, they also have additional taxes that get directed toward education. The Sarasota community, the Sarasota County has had a referendum for increased school funding that gets approved by voters overwhelmingly. And the charter operators, including traditional charter schools, have some access to that money. So Sarasota is, in particular, a attractive target for potential Schools of Hope or charters looking to expand their territory.
So in Sarasota County now, are there some Schools of Hope, or is it just other kinds of charter schools?
No. Prior to this law, Sarasota was an A school rate. I mean, Sarasota was not a school district where Schools of Hope could come in. It was I think for at least more than a decade, they've had an A rating as a school district. They only have a couple C schools, and most of them are A's or B's. So no, it was not identified as a struggling school district where Schools of Hope could move in.
Right.
They did have 14 charter schools. The board has, there has been school board members that have been advocates of charter schools.
Right.
On Sarasota County School District, on the Sarasota County School Board, and they have not been hostile to charter schools from my reporting, from what I've seen.
If you're just joining us on Florida Matters Live and Local, we're talking with Suncoast Searchlight reporter Derek Gillum, talking about Schools of Hope and their plans to move into underused or unused space on public school campuses. If you have some thoughts about this, if you're a teacher or a parent, have concerns, or if you think it's a good idea to use that space, give us a call, 813-755-6562. Let's go to the phones now. We've got Stephen on the line. Stephen, you're on the air. Go for it. What's on your mind?
Well, basically, I'm actually a retired high school principal and superintendent from the New York City schools. And one of the things that we successfully did there was to take schools that had excess space and open within them another school ourselves. So there was the Board of Education open a new school in that spare space. And in many cases, it met the demands that the parents wanted, and the reason they were less inclined to take the child entirely out of the school. They didn't like the regular school, they might like the new one.
So when you hear what's happening in Sarasota County, actually other counties across the state of Florida too, are you a little, like, what are you thinking? Are you thinking this actually could work and maybe people shouldn't be so worried about it?
I think that school boards, traditional school boards, are not being creative enough in their thinking. When you look at New York City, for example, in 1980 had 145 high schools. Now there are over 550 high schools, all opened by the Board of Education to meet the needs of students who otherwise would be going to a private chartered school. I don't think of charter schools as public. I think of them as private.
Okay. All right. So Stephen, let me put some of that to our guest here, Derek, if I could. And thank you so much for your call. Really appreciate you weighing in. And Derek, what about that? I mean, the comment there was like maybe school districts need to be a little more creative about their thinking. And from what I've read, there is some creativity going into how to use some of the space. So what are you hearing? Is there a way that these schools can kind of coexist or co-locate without friction?
Well, I will say that the Schools of Hope legislation does appear to have set a fire under the Sarasota County School District. They have today, actually, earlier this morning, they unveiled their plan to transform some of their underutilized schools. That involves expanding junior achievement. It was talking about offering daycare services at some of these schools, or partnering with daycare companies to take up some of the space. There was talk of demolishing some school buildings to take down utilization rates, or to at least boost utilization rates and decrease some of the capacity at some of these schools. And that was largely because of now talking to some of the members, people on the school board, as well as the superintendent, these plans have been bouncing around at the district for a long time. There was always some other fire to put out. Now this is the five alarm fire, and they're really focused on, and there's also been a lot of discussion among the community. Originally, one of the things they were looking at was closing the Wilkinson Elementary, a local school in Sarasota. And the community 100% was against that, or appeared a large portion of the community was against that idea. And the school district has reversed course. They were talking about combining a polytechnical high school and combining that with a local middle school. They're talking about selling their district headquarters and moving some of their offices into one of the middle schools. They're talking about expanding the K-8 model, taking some of these elementary schools and growing them to K-8 schools. So there's a lot of ideas that have been come forth after these notices went out in October. So.
Yeah, lots to consider there. We are going to have to leave the conversation there, but Derek Gilliam, reporter with the independent non-profit newsroom Suncoast Searchlight, thank you so much for reporting on this. I'm sure we'll be discussing this more down the track, and you can find Suncoast Searchlight stories on WUSF.org. They're reporting from Derek and other reporters from the team. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thank you.
We're coming up in about 10 minutes. The Buccaneers are celebrating a golden milestone. They turn 50 this year. What are your favourite memories of the team? Are there players or traditions you miss? Do you prefer creamsicle orange over pewter? Call and let us know. We'll go to that in just a few moments. Stay tuned. Florida Matters Live and Local continues in a moment.
USF hosts UTSA on Salute to Service Night. Cheer on Bulls football and honor our heroes. November 6th at 7:30 p.m. at Raymond James Stadium. Visit usfbullstix.com or call 800-GO-BULLS for tickets.
I'm Peter O'Dowd. Hawaii's governor tells us how the government shutdown affects people in his state. Plus, journalist Susan Orlean made a career out of telling interesting stories, but when it came to writing her own memoir,
I couldn't figure out where the adventure would come from if I'm writing about myself.
Next time on Here and Now.
Join us this afternoon from 1 to 3 on WUSF 89.7.
Want to be in the know, but you don't have a ton of time, especially in the morning? Well, the Bay Blend podcast from WUSF gives you the latest news and events in the Tampa Bay area in just a few minutes. It's fun, it's quick, and it's all about your community. Check out the Bay Blend weekday mornings wherever you get your podcasts at.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. Do you remember the first time you rode a bike all by yourself with no training wheels? Now, if you're comfortable riding a bike, chances are you learned to ride when you were a kid. You might have a skinned knee or an elbow or two, but once you got the hang of it, you can do it without thinking about it. But what's it like learning to ride as an adult? If you want to learn to ride, or maybe you want to get back on the bike after a long break, but you're a bit nervous about it, who can teach you? And is it harder as an adult than as a kid? Mary Jane Cranendonk is with us. She's an instructor with Wenzel Coaching. Thanks for being here.
I'll see you Thursday night. Yeah.
We're about to go with some sound from Mary Jane Cranendonk, I think, queuing that up. Until we find that sound, up next, the Buccaneers are 50 this year, and they've got 2 Super Bowl rings to show off. But are you a fan from the very start? Give us a call, 813-755-6562. Let's go to Mary Jane Cranendonk now. Mary Jane, what is the first thing you do when somebody comes to you and says, okay, I want to learn to ride?
Well, the very first thing you do is you make sure that they have the proper equipment. First of all, I have a trainer bike. I have like 3 bikes, but I have a certain bike that I use if someone doesn't have a bike of their own. So you want to make sure the bike's the right size and the right height. Their feet need to be touching the ground, pretty much flat almost when they're learning. And then as they get better, then you would raise the seat. Also, if they have a proper fitting helmet.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second thing you do is you make sure they know how to brake. Then after you learn how to brake, then you go from there and you get them on the seat so it's at the right height, and you learn how to balance. It's all on how to balance.
Do you remember what it was like when you were learning to ride?
Oh, yeah. I was 6 years old. I have a twin sister. And my brother took us to the top of the street, get on the bike, push us down.
So there was a bit of a hill.
Yeah, that helps when you have a little bit of an incline.
Mm-hmm. This was not Florida, I'm guessing?
Oh, yeah.
It was? Okay.
Yeah, Temple Terrace.
Okay.
Just a little, gradual incline. And then if you have that gives them a little bit of a momentum. Now, one thing I do have on this bike it's like a German bike. It's got a really low step through, which I inherited from my mother-in-law.
Now, when you say step through, you're talking about like the sort of the crossbar, right? So
right.
Some of those are sort of curved. They come down. You can actually step through it, as you say.
Correct. So there's different types. There's the male bike or whatever, the boy bike they call it, and that's got a higher bar. And then there's also like a female bike with the lower bar, and mine's even so low that you only have to lift your foot maybe 3 or 4 inches off the ground. So anyways, that bike is great for older people too, because I've got a lot of older clients in their 70s that they might have had a bad experience on the bike, and they can't lift their leg over a bar, but they can step through this. But I have a rack on the back of this bike as well. So once they get going a little bit, I can help them balance.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so you put things on the rack to kind of, is it like a...
It's just a little rack on the back of the bike where you normally would put like your water bottle or a bag or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it came with the rack, but the rack has helped tremendously with me helping them to learn how to balance. Another tip that I've used is using different surfaces for the clients.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if they're adults or children, any age. I found that after they've learned their balance, I take them on the short grass area of a ball field, or on the dirt clay part of a ball field. We're not going to tell the baseball field that I'm doing this, okay? And it's always empty when I go there. And they have no fear of falling then, very little fear. But of course, I have never had anybody fall. I'm always right there all the time. Then I transform the concrete. Take them to the concrete. There's trails, parks. I usually try to find a location that's convenient for both of us, but the grass area really works great.
Okay, so who are your students? Like, who is...
Who are my clients?
Yeah, who are your clients?
All right, so how it works is company Winslow Cycling have coaches all over the country, okay, and they're out of Portland, Oregon. And I'm Coach MJ on their site, and I'm the Learn to Ride instructor for Tampa Bay, the Tampa Bay area. So all of a sudden, this is just kind of bursting at the seams. I've gotten so many clients. I think it's maybe word of mouth, but it seems like I'm getting a family, then they tell them another family, and you go on the site and you sign up for a Learn to Ride lesson with Coach MJ. It's a 90-minute lesson. So sometimes they can make it the whole 90 minutes, but a lot of times I split it. And I ask them if they want to learn for 90 minutes or would they rather do 2 45-minute lessons, because the heat and it's tiring, not only for them, but also for me. But I give them that option. And my clients range from 6 years old. And I think the oldest client I've had has maybe been about 75, 76 years old.
76, okay.
I had a woman, this was a couple years ago, from St. Pete that had a terrible fall, and she actually got injured and wanted, not with me, but earlier, and wanted to relearn how to ride a bike. I actually went to her took a couple tries, and couple lessons, excuse me, and she was able to, it was more of getting her confidence built up again. She knew how to ride, but she was afraid.
It's interesting. I mean, just thinking about balance, I can distinctly remember the first time I was able to balance on a bike. Like, you don't forget that, right? It feels kind of magical. Like, how is this happening?
It's so exciting for these, especially adults. They're so fearful at the beginning. I mean, they're really, I can't do it. And then by the end, they're like, they're so proud of themselves, And a lot of times it takes more than one lesson, more than one 90 minutes lesson. I've had people sign up for multiple lessons, and they're determined. Their kids can ride, but they can't ride. That's a lot of the young mothers from other countries and cultures that have been here. Maybe they weren't exposed to biking, or they're from inner cities and they didn't have an opportunity to bike. But now they're in Florida, and there's bike trails everywhere, and there's so much fun. It's great, socially, mentally, physically. It's just the best exercise.
I want to ask a little more about electric bikes too. I mean, you mentioned there are all different kinds. I see some that look almost like motorbikes, essentially. They've got pretty wide tires. They're zipping along pretty fast. Now, as an instructor, you may be taking somebody out on a trail. Are you worried at all about the different kind of traffic they're going to encounter?
Okay, yeah, yes. That's a good question. I try to go to locations, and people that are learning how to ride bikes don't want to be around a lot of people. Okay. There's some great bike trails, and it's also time of day. Like, if you go to a certain trails in Tampa Bay area or Pasco County, and you're going Saturday and Sunday morning, they're going to be packed, okay? In the evening, usually a lot of the trails are not as crowded. And the park that I usually go to a lot, I always check to make sure that there's not a big event going on, like an art show or something going on at that park. I try to find a location that's not busy. Yes, the e-bikes can be, they go by, but there are rules of the road. You treat a bike like a car, and if someone's passing you, they always say on your left. So if a trail is too busy, then we try to find a different location.
Have you noticed more people kind of getting out and about on bikes? Like, since the pandemic? I'm just sort of wondering if this is like a bit of a...
That's when it went. That's when I got the job, during the pandemic. And I think that, yes, families are wanting to get out. And, we're in Florida here, got beautiful weather most of the time. I mean, middle of the day is not necessarily the time when I teach. I either teach early in the morning or in the evenings, unless when the weather gets cooler. But yes, I think that was part of it.
What do you do when you're not teaching bike riding? For fun? Like, do you kind of ride for fun as well?
Oh yeah. I have a really good friend that we go biking. He got me a road bike, so I have a road bike, I have a mountain bike, I have a trainer bike. I'm going to pick up a bike for kids, because I'm getting so many kids now as clients. But most of the kids have their own bikes.
Yeah.
But if they didn't have one, we go. There's some great trails.
Yeah, lots of options. That's Mary Jane Cranendonk, and coming up next, we're talking about 50 years of the Bucks. Stay with us.
All Star Children's Foundation presents their annual Twinkle Ball November 12th at the Aura in Sarasota, putting the twinkle back into the eyes of children living in foster care through innovation, science, and compassion. More information at allstarchildren.org. Azara Ballet is known for breaking traditional ballet standards. Their Season 3 premieres in Sarasota on November 14th and 15th. For tickets, visit azaraballet.org. That's AZARA ballet.org.
On the next Fresh Air, why the U.S. Justice Department's cases against Donald Trump for alleged interference in the 2020 election and his retention of government documents never made it before a jury. Investigative reporters Kara Lenig and Aaron Davis give us an inside look at the department's investigations. Join us.
Great conversation on Fresh Air tonight at 7 on WUSF.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. The Buccaneers are 50 this year. Back in 2021, powered by Tom Brady's golden arm, the Bucs held the Vince Lombardi Trophy for the second time in team history.
On behalf of the NFL, thank you to the city of Tampa for a wonderful Super Bowl week. In a season we will never forget, you are the Super Bowl champions. We will always remember. The Vince Lombardi Trophy is staying in Tampa Bay.
And that was NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell there, of course. But if you've been a fan from the very beginning, you remember how long it took the Bucs to win.
Last week, the NFL's most notable nowhere man was John McKay, coach of the infamous Tampa Bay Buccaneers, losers of 26 consecutive games. But in the Superdome against the horrified New Orleans Saints, the inevitable finally happened.
Of course, from an NFL Films recap of the Bucs' first win against the New Orleans Saints in December 1977. We're talking about the last 50 years of the Bucs, and we want to hear from you. Call and share your highs and lows. What's made you stick with the team through the years, and where do you see them going from here? The number is 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. You can also reach out to us on email, FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Well, with us is Joey Johnston and Chris Harry. They are the authors of Tales from the Bucs Sideline, which charts the rise of the team from winless wonders to world champs. Joey and Chris, thank you so much for being with us. Really appreciate it. Okay, so let's start with when you both began following the Buccaneers. Joey, when did you start following the team? We're not actually hearing you, Joey. Let's try Chris. Chris, are you with us?
Am I with it? You tell me.
Yeah, I think you are.
Sounds
Okay,
like
Chris, let me go to you first. When did you start following the Buccaneers?
Okay, well, what Joey is about to tell you that is he grew up in Tampa, so he was a fan of the team from the early goings. I was a little late to the party. He and I, as some people may know who have seen or heard us on some broadcasts when our paths have crossed, are both USF graduates.
Mm-hmm.
My freshman year at USF was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' third year of existence, so I was late to the 0-26 party. But Joey, you're with us now, right, Joey? You were.
Joey, I'm not hearing. Joey, you with us? Can you just say a few words? Yeah, it looks like we don't quite have Joey on at the moment. Let's get to Joey when we can, if we can.
Unmute Joey.
Okay, there we go. How about now?
Yeah. All right. So Joey,
Okay.
you've sort of been with the team from the very, very humble, I guess we could say, beginnings of it. What was it like seeing it kind of emerge as that fledgling NFL team?
Well, first of all, as I grew up, there was this constant search for an NFL team for Tampa. And I remember when the franchise was granted, and then by the time the Bucs came around, I was a senior in high school and went to all the games, of course, and sat through a lot of losses at the old Sombrero Stadium. You mentioned earlier 0-26, and it was almost 2 full years with no wins. So you had to really buckle down and be loyal if this was your team. And then once the Bucs broke through, they actually, in the 4th year of the franchise, almost made it to the Super Bowl. So they came a long way in a short time. But the way it started was beyond horrific with 26 straight losses.
Yeah.
That's I don't know if anybody has a chapter like that in their origins. But the Buccaneers.
We have some chapters about it right here, by the way.
Exactly. We wrote
Tales
a few
from the
chapters
Bucs
on that.
Yes.
So that was 50 years ago, a long time ago. And as you mentioned, the Bucs have twice won the Super Bowl, which there were plenty of times when I wondered if I would see that in my lifetime. I got to see it twice,
yeah,
and it may happen again. So it's been quite a quite an eventful 50 years for this franchise.
Yeah, quite a ride. The number is 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. Talking about the 50 years, the first 50 years, I guess we can say, of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the team that a lot of folks have stuck with from the very beginning, like Joey Johnson, who's one of our guests here, and also Chris Harry. They are the authors of Tales from the Bucs Sideline, charting the rise of the Buccaneers. So, I mean, they had an inauspicious beginning, but they had some pretty good players from the get-go. Steve Spurrier was the Bucs' first starting quarterback. Let's just listen to another little clip from NFL Films from their very first regular season game against the Houston Oilers.
If you've never before seen a real live Tampa Bay Buccaneer, here's what one looks like. This is Steve Spurrier, for 9 years a quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, following his Heisman year at Florida. Last week, Steve Spurrier almost gave Tampa Bay, Florida, its first professional touchdown. Almost, but not quite.
So, what was it like to watch Spurrier play, Joey? I mean, he was a legendary player when he sort of came into the team. So what was it like watching him kind of trying to make things work for the Buccaneers in those early years?
Yeah, I mean, it was sort of a lost cause, and he would probably tell you the same. I mean, they had a very porous offensive line. Steve Spurrier was on his back a lot, or running from pressure. He did the best he could, but it was a very difficult situation to be placed into. People in Tampa knew him as the Heisman winner, a guy that was an NFL veteran and had high expectations. But man, it was just a tough deal. They had trouble moving the ball. They had trouble moving the chains and getting first downs. So, ironically enough, and Chris knows this very well, Steve Spurrier uses this as great banquet speaking material that
absolutely
quarterback of the worst team to ever play. So, and then he goes on to be this incredible coach. So, but, I think there's a lot of people that have no idea that Steve Spurrier was the coach, was the quarterback of the winless Buccaneers. They just know him as the Florida Gators coach.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a chapter in his life, maybe one that he doesn't really want to remember too much these days.
Let's go to the
How about
phones.
the 1976 game, if I may interrupt, where the Bucs were,
Sure.
I think it's an NFL record to this day, 28-point underdogs, Joey?
Yeah.
Something like that. They finished with 85 yards of offense, and Spurrier and Terry Hanratty, I believe, got sacked 10 times on that 85 yards of offense. And I think afterwards, John McKay, and I'm sure we'll get to a couple John McKay quotes, said something about when he was asked about how bad the offensive performance was. He said, "You guys should take Sundays off and come try play behind our offensive line."
Yeah.
Lots of good.
He also
good
said late in that winless season, John McKay also said, "We'll get this thing turned around. Maybe not in this century, but eventually." He was always good for a laugh.
Let's go to the phones. I do have some listeners who are interested in weighing in here. Let's go to Mike. Mike, you're on the air. What are you thinking?
Sure. I was just listening to your host speak about the early years of the Bucs, and it struck me that those first 2 or 3 years they were able to draft some high level talent. They were probably getting some number one picks. And I don't know if Steve Spurrier was one of them. You've already mentioned them. But my question is, who are some of the really high number one picks that the Bucs got in the first 2 or 3 years?
Mike, great question. So what about that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the first pick they ever had was Leroy Selman, arguably one of the greatest players in the history of the franchise and in the NFL. So they got that one right. The second year, they drafted Ricky Bell at running back. He was struggling for a bit and had a great year when they finally made the playoffs in 1979. They drafted Doug Williams, the quarterback, who really led them to a lot of their early success. So they did amass some talent, and it took a while for it to gel. They had really good defensive talent almost from the beginning. Their problem in the winless years was they literally could not score points or move the ball at all.
Yeah.
And the defense was put in these impossible situations. When Doug Williams came, they finally developed some offensive identity, and that coupled with a really, really good defense led them to some winning seasons.
You're listening to Florida Matters Live and Local. If you're just joining us, we're talking about the 50-year anniversary of the Buccaneers. If you've been to some of those early games or some of the later ones and want to share your experiences, give us a call, 813-755-6562. We're with Joey Johnston and Chris Harry. They're the authors of Tales from the Bucs Sideline, charting the rise of the team. Let's go to Roger now. Roger, you're on the air. What are you thinking?
Yeah, well, I was living in Atlanta in the first year, Tampa at the end of that first year, and I looked since I'm in Tampa, I might as well be a Bucs fan. I looked for a game that would be fun to watch, so I picked the St. Louis Cardinals because they had Jim Hart at that time, and he was known for throwing long passes and touchdowns. I thought that would be fun to watch. The Bucs lost, and they went down to New Orleans, and they won their first regular season game, came back home, and they just tore St. Louis up. It was the first home game ever, and that was just so much fun. And Doug Williams had a great game, and we left the game and went out to the stadium, across the street. At that point, it was a mall. Went across the street and turned back, and you could look inside the mall. Hardly anybody left. They were just standing there, just screaming. It was such a big event for a victory.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Doug Williams was not on that team.
No, that was actually Gary Huff was the quarterback that day. But one thing, Roger, you might remember if
they graduated, made them Buccaneers. That worked out pretty well.
Right.
If you stayed till the end of the game, you might remember that they tore the goalpost down.
Did they really?
Yeah, they tore the goalpost down, and they came down. Obviously the officials and the police tried to prevent it, but it was like a college football atmosphere. Everybody got on the goalposts and they came down. So that was the second win of the season. So the Bucs finished 2-12, but there was great optimism after that. They showed they could actually win some games, and then after that they won a few more and got better. But that was quite the afternoon. I remember too, they would traditionally introduce either the offense or the defense, one by one. For this game, they just said, like, ladies and gentlemen, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they all ran on the field at the same time and to a standing ovation. So the crowd was just, so giddy with the fact that they'd won a game the week prior, and then they were rewarded with a win over a really good St. Louis Cardinal team.
Yeah, so it sounds like things were a little kind of uneven. I just wanted to get another question in here, if I could. I mean, you had the inaugural coach John McKay surviving the early losses, getting the Bucs their first playoffs in 1979, as you said, and then after that, there was kind of a long list of bad coaches. So, how hard was it for the Bucs to find the right coach and kind of get that winning formula?
Chris, take that one.
Well, I mean, Lehman Bennett was a disaster, but he also had a lot of bad luck. I think he was left over some poor draft choices, and if you look at some of these guys that they had, I mean, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had Steve Young, and at the time he was just viewed as some gimmick kind of quarterback who probably couldn't play. So eventually Ray Perkins traded him when they drafted Vinny Testaverde, and of course in between then they had a chance to get Bo Jackson, and that all fell apart he didn't want to play in Tampa, and he actually had the leverage of being able to play baseball. But like I said, they had Vinny Testaverde, who I think a lot of people thought was going to be a franchise, just a great quarterback for a decade. I thought Keith McCants was going to be a second coming of Lawrence Taylor when he came out of Alabama. They drafted good players, but like you mentioned, the coaches. I mean, when you went from Lehman Bennett, then came Ray Perkins, and that's when I kind of got involved with covering the team. Remember Joey Camp Perkins? They did 3-a-days. Nowadays, they barely do 1-a-days because the conditioning is so year-round and the training is so year-round. And those teams were so worn out by the time late October and November hit. The Bucs just cratered and with it any optimism they had early on in the season.
Yeah.
But it really took Tony Dungy, and that was after Sam Weish, of course, who had his comical ways, of course. Tony Dungy was the person who really gave the organization some balance. And some legitimacy, and
so he was
really good players.
So he was really the turning point. I want to just get one more call in here, if I could. Let's go to the phones. We've got Jordan on the line. Jordan, real quick, what do you want to say?
Hi, thanks for having me on. I was actually a nurse during COVID, and I was fortunate enough to get an email asking if I'd like to go to the Super Bowl, as I'd gotten the COVID vaccine, and so I was actually there for Tom Brady's Super Bowl victory, his final Super Bowl with and the first in the Tampa community where the Super Bowl finally was where the home team played. So that was quite the experience, and I appreciate the Bucs organization for helping all the healthcare providers to set that up. It was definitely a once-in-a-lifetime 1-yard line end zone experience.
Certainly was a legendary thing to be part of, no doubt. Thank you so much for that call. We're going to have to leave the conversation there, but lots of good memories shared by our listeners, and thank you to our guests, Joey Johnson and Chris Harry, authors of Tales from the Bucs Sideline. Really appreciate you weighing in, Chris and Joey.
Thank you.
Well, coming up next, we talk to a Bucs super fan. You may be a dedicated sports fan, but are you dedicated enough to commit to donning face paint, a helmet, and a costume season after season for 35 years? We're going to meet a guy so embedded in Buccaneers fandom, he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame twice. That's when Florida Matters Live and Local continues.
Gulfside Healthcare Services provides expert, compassionate care for every step of your journey. The Dr. J. Weil Center for Hospice Care in Newport Richey is now serving patients. Learn more at gulfside.org. Subscriptions are now on sale for the Ringling College Town Hall Speaker Series, featuring the world's leading spokespeople in world affairs, journalism, film, and more. January through April. Learn more at rclassociation.org.
I'm Scott Tong. Salman Rushdie publishes his first fiction collection since a knife attack 3 years ago. The 11th Hour is a series of novellas and short stories on the end of life.
I think partly it's a consequence of my having had a close shave that focuses the mind on such subjects as mortality.
Next time, Here and Now.
Join us this afternoon from 1 to 3 on WUSF 89.7.
I'm Nancy Guan, a reporter at WUSF. Like you, I'm busy, and I need help staying on top of what's going on. I depend on the Wake Up Call, the daily newsletter from WUSF. It starts your weekdays with a quick, early glance at the important news happening in the Tampa Bay region and the world. You get quality reporting from WUSF and NPR journalists, and connections to local artists, events, and more. Sign up is easy. Just visit WUSF.org.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. Now, if you follow the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you probably know the name Big Nasty. For 35 years, it was Keith Kunzig's alter ego as a face-painted Bucs superfan. Big Nasty hung up his horned helmet in 2022. 2 years earlier, he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fans. So, how did he get to be such a huge part of the culture of the Bucs for more than 3 decades? And what's football season like for Keith Kunzig now? He joins us in studio along with his daughter Destiny. Keith and Destiny, thanks for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And you've got your daughter Destiny here as well. Destiny, thanks for stopping by.
Of course. Thank you for having us.
So, describe the look. I mean, you've kind of, from photos, and obviously you've given away the face paint, so you're not in face paint now, but you brought your helmet in. It's kind of like something between a cross between Gene Simmons. You got some Viking iconography going on there.
Very well.
What is happening with that?
I could tell you when we first started, it was kind of crazy. I looked like an orange pumpkin.
Right.
I remember putting the paste on, and I kid you not, it was before they had spray-on tans.
Mm-hmm.
It stained my face for a week.
This was sort of back when they had the creamsicle colored uniforms.
Yes, this is way back in the day. So then it kind of evolved. And yes, I am a huge Kiss fan.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where the top lines. But then I looked at the Wisconsin Badgers helmet,
mm-hmm.
and I liked the W that they had on there. And I was like, W could be for win. And that's how it evolved over the years. And at first it was changing your makeup every week. Then I said, nah, what does Kiss do? If you want to create some kind of trademark,
mm-hmm. you
want to do something consistent. And we've done it. Yeah, over 35 years.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? Big Nasty might even bring it back one game.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's you heard it here first. So can you just sort of pick this helmet up and show it for the camera? Like, what do we got here? We got like a construction helmet?
Well, to give you an idea, when people look at this, they go, what does this have to do with any Buccaneer ever?
Uh-huh.
Well, it doesn't. It's definitely, I guess you could say, one of a kind. But it was designed, I can't even take the credit. It was a gentleman that was a member of my health club that I used to manage.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually named after the Rhino offense.
Okay.
Now, the Rhino offense was, a pretty limited edition. I know the newspaper come up with the nickname, and it was Mike Allstott and Lorenzo Neal. Lorenzo Neal was like more of a full back that can
mm-hmm.
just block the world.
Yeah.
But Mike, everybody knows Mikey. Mikey was just the A train, and that's where the Rhino helmet came from.
Yeah, just hold it up so the camera can see. The camera's right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty awesome over the years. This isn't the actual original.
Mm-hmm.
The original is with my brothers. I have both of us because my brother was Little Nasty.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's always better with a tag team, right?
Yeah.
That's why I got me and my daughter because she's more louder than I am now.
Oh, wow. Okay. So Big Nasty sounds like a rapper. Like, how did you come up with that nickname?
Well, these days nicknames, people create their own nicknames. I'm not a fan of that.
Mm-hmm.
But mine was
somebody gave you this nickname?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can remember like it was yesterday, the old sombrero, in Tampa Stadium, about 64 rows up where we sat. Lady goes every week, she goes, "Hey, you need a nickname, Sonny, something big and something nasty." And that's how it got started.
Okay.
And I couldn't tell you her name. I wish I did. She's probably not around anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We all gotten older. But it was just a lot of fun, and that's why we did it. It was mainly just to have a good time and, family, football, and God. That's what it's all about.
And you were doing it, I read, to cheer your brother up or something at the time?
Oh, yeah, you did your research. That's really good. The reason why we did it the first time is my brother broke up with his girlfriend, very down. And I said, dude, let's just go paint up and go to the game. And that's when we stained our faces and ended up going to the game. And we took more pictures because there were no face painters back then.
Mm-hmm.
None. I don't think there's anybody that was an idiot like us that wanted to do that in 120-degree heat.
Mm-hmm.
But we had a lot of fun with it. And I could tell you, I can remember it was the Battle of the Pigs with the Green Bay Packers because we were the two worst teams in the NFL. And now look at us.
Yeah. Well, Destiny, let me ask you about that. So your dad has been this kind of icon of Bucs fandom for so long. What's it like sort of witnessing that as a family member?
I'm going to be so honest with you. I thought when I was a kid, everybody had a dad like him. Oh, really? I thought everybody went to the Bucs games on Sundays, and that's just what it was. But as I got older, I quickly realized that we are a very fanatical family and beyond blessed to even have the opportunities that we have had.
Are you a little sad that he's not kind of in character so much anymore?
I wouldn't say sad because he's still the same dad. He's still the same person that's going to scream and cheer on the team with me and talk football 24/7. So, but in the sense, I do know it's better for him that he has retired it just with everything that he had going on. Mm-hmm. With him getting older, I think it was the right time, and the way everything ended up was the way it was supposed to be.
Was it hard to kind of know that you, like, once you had this persona, people were sort of relying on you to be there, right? I mean, do you feel like if you are this fan, you've kind of, it's taken a life of its own, and then you have a responsibility to put the face paint on, put the gear on, come with the helmet?
One of the things that's funny you say that we didn't do it, for fame. We didn't do it to be on the TV. We didn't do it for that. What we did, it was just to have fun, and we did it consistently. And I'm kind of that way. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. There isn't take a week off, come back maybe next year. It was a consistent over 35 years. And what people don't realize is even when the season's over, it's not over because you're doing charity events and, stuff like that, which is really what it was all about, I could tell you a really cool thing that when it first started, that I knew we had something because there was a crew of us. And we're walking in the stadium, and all of a sudden I see this handicapped child in a wheelchair. So, and a matter of fact, it was part of the Angelus group. And so I went up with him, and I had Who Let the Dogs Out, the stuffed animal. Mm-hmm. And I put the stuffed animal and tied it to his chair. And at first he was like, what in the world is coming at me? And then afterwards, the smile on that kid's face. Now, you think that would make you feel good? No. I got on the other side of the stadium, and here comes his mom screaming. And there's a lot of weirdos at the game, especially when they're drinking. And she's crying, oh, my God, oh, my God. I said, what happened? I'm thinking something happened to this lady. She goes, that's the first time he smiled in 10 years.
Oh, wow.
I mean, then all the guys in the crew are looking at like, wow, we just we uncovered something here. Let's be more consistent. And what we did was just make a person's game day experience more memorable over the 35 years. And I loved it, and I still love it.
It's funny seeing the photos of you with fans from other teams too. I think there's a guy who's like a license plate guy or something from New York. There's the puppet lady.
Yeah, you got the New York Giant license plate. You got the puppet lady from Kansas City. Very good people. She still owes me a Buccaneer puppet from us beating her in the Super Bowl. But, and that's the neat thing is, when you get into the Hall of Fame, you're getting in there with the quality of fans. And when you go on away trips, you have a contact. They take care of you, likewise when they come to Tampa. But it's always about rivalries and having fun.
Do you, the Bucs has had some ups and downs over the years, right? And you've sort of been there riding that wave from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. Did it make it easier to kind of channel the highs and lows because you had this sort of fan persona to put that into?
I can tell you, as an 8-year-old Buck fan at the beginning, going 0-26 and not winning a game and just loving the colors of the Bucs and getting to meet some of these players at a football camp. Mm-hmm. And then when you go from losing to winning your first game and then evolving as you get older, I could tell you our first Super Bowl win in San Diego, it was like, oh man, like I played the game, like it was, something lifted off my shoulders, and I didn't play one down.
What's that like, Destiny?
I love it, honestly. We've traveled to so many different places and been able to do so many different things. My favorite of all time, the London trip, being able to go overseas and to be able to witness that and see the culture amongst the fans there who don't even have the NFL there, but you see them with Bucs jerseys, Patriots jerseys, so it's been just an amazing experience in life, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. We're definitely blessed, aren't we, kid?
Oh, beyond blessed.
Absolutely.
When did you realize it was time to hang up the helmet and put away the face paint?
Well, the year before is when I started noticing, okay, I'm coming home. I'm totally dehydrated, looking like Edward Scissorhands. Literally, I'm not joking. And me having the lap band, it takes a little bit more time for the fluids to get in you. Mm-hmm. And then, and not that I passed out or anything, but when I got home, I'm done for a day. Because it's a participating sport to me, is Big Nasty. And when you're screaming from the top of your lungs every third down, it takes its toll. I mean, literally, I dropped 20 pounds in water weight each game. But then I had my back surgery, and I was like, we're getting close to the time. And that last year, boy, that was rough because we went to Germany. We went to a lot of away games because it was our last year, or what they call our last ride, I guess you could say. Somebody came up and did T-shirts for charity on that.
So it was time then to say, I'm going to enjoy these games at a slightly more sedate pace now.
Yeah, I mean, come on. You get into Hall of Fame twice.
Yeah.
First one was in 2001 with Visa, and then Ford in 2020. What else can I do with this?
Well, that was Bucs superfan Keith Kunzig, a.k.a. Big Nasty, and his daughter Destiny. Well, tomorrow on Florida Matters Live and Local, Floridians are proud of their natural springs and waterways, and rightfully so, but the once crystal clear waters are getting murkier and murkier. So, who's to blame? Are state lawmakers doing enough to protect our waters? Call 813-755-6562 and tell us what you're seeing in the water, and then tune in Wednesday at 12 noon. That's our show for today. Our executive producer is Grayson Doctor. Our producer is Amelie Horace. Lily Belcher is our intern. Our engineers are Jackson Harp and Gio Garvin. Jackson composed the theme music, and Chandler Balcom handled the video today. Subscribe to Florida Matters wherever you get your podcasts, and you can watch on WUSF's YouTube channel. I'm Matthew Petty. Thanks for listening and watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Funding for WUSF comes from listeners like you, and also